Right, I've since the last video, I've actually rendered this scene out like 2 or 3 times now, just with different lightings or different placement of the sun, just to see what it looks like. And there's definitely some nice qualities with it being the sun being in different positions. Like I said before, previously, bringing out the kind of cooler side of seeing this aspect of the colony wall and the accommodation over here, and putting a lot of sunlight in the actual terrain. In this case, with this one, there was a bit of an error with the. Let me just make this full size. The terrain rendering. Basically, I discovered what that was. I'd left the map to rounded geometry on in the displacement, and it didn't like that at all. Or map resulting geometry, that was it, and that didn't work at all. So I'm taking that off, and that's fine now. So that was one version of it. I then did it with a different placement of the sun, obviously. And I quite like this. I quite like the sort of darkened shadow area over this side, and what it sort of reveals in the terrain here. And this obviously long sort of slither of sunshine, mostly along this side and setting off here. And also it's nice with the shadows kind of falling onto the accommodation. And then I did another one, which is this one here. Which kind of best of both worlds, really, because you're getting a bit, it's lighting up this side, and lighting up this side and casting some nice shadows from the structure on it. And then I decided to render a larger one out still at 4,000 pixels, which is still not particularly big. I probably rendered the final at maybe 6,000 or 8,000. But certainly you start to see, more of the detail, and it helps also to see what work you still need to do. From what I've discovered, or what I see in this render, things I know I need to address are the lights, or the apparent lights behind these windows. I need to get this sorted out so they're properly lining up and not looking quite so odd in terms of the sort of half placement on various windows and such like. It's putting me off. It doesn't look very convincing. The trees on the walkways and such like, I think for the most part are fine. I will, I think, drop some more regular green trees in there to just lessen the frequency of the blossom trees, because there's some places where it's one blossom tree after another. Luckily I've got 2 or 3, or maybe 3 or 4 different blossom trees in there, so that they are different, but nevertheless I think I'd like a little bit more green in there. The only other issue I've sort of really noticed is a good example of it here, is that I obviously scaled down the poplar tree on the walkways because they were just way too big. I do love the shape of them, and I do think they add a bit of a sort of Mediterranean feel to it. You kind of see these in France and various places, long lines of this type of tall tree. But I've also got them in the landscape, and they're scaled up in there relatively, and I don't know whether I can live with that scale difference, because it tends to throws this one out a little bit. So I've either got to scale them down in the landscape, or scale them up in the walkways, or do away with them completely on the walkways. But other than that, I think it's all looking quite well. What I've decided to do is, as much as I like seeing this shape, I like seeing the sort of concrete of this form sort of pulled out of the random terraces. I am going to go back and actually extrude inwards, so that I turn all of these basically into balconies. So that sort of, the purpose being that I'm going to put like a deck in or something inside it, and maybe in some even a chair or whatever. And if I'm going to add some 3D people, then I'll probably have some sort of standing looking out over the balcony, or see them from below having a drink or whatever. So that's got to be done. In terms of everything else, it's kind of getting there. I think I'd like to perhaps have some areas where I do take out some of the trees in these walkways, simply because I'd like some spaces where I perhaps put some blocks or benches or something where people would sit, so there's a little bit more space for that. In terms of the main ring structure, another thing I'd like to do is to add a material or something to break up. It'll be a grayscale material to break up the highlights on these to make them look a bit more like panels. At the moment this is just like one solid glossy thing, and it's broken up obviously by the hexagonal glass panes here, so it's not like that looks too even, but I think it would sort of benefit from looking like this is made up of lots of little panels rather than just one solid even finish. And obviously we'll notice it in here as well, but it'll only really matter because you'll only see it where the sun catches it, and it'll just disperse the specularity or reflection a little bit. I also need to sort out getting the like vapor vents back again, which I had in here. I'm going to need to find a way of having them cloned with and still work within a cloner that has render instances activated so that they can all be seen. But I did notice anyway with the lights, using the volumetric lights, that they all looked absolutely identical. So I'd like to put, you know, a number of them in there and alter their seed so that they have a different noise pattern in them, which will be more convincing. Other than that, at the moment I think it's okay. I've toned down. One of the last things we added, or I added to the scene, was the kind of algae or moss type thing going up the wall here. And obviously that's because it's been sort of attenuated by ambient occlusion. It sort of fits, it grips to the terrain pretty well, and obviously follows the line of it. I don't mind that, but it does need to be broken up because it's a little bit too, it's almost like a shadow. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit there. What I need to do is find or add another noise that just randomizes this a bit more so that the height varies a little bit. And equally I think I can probably sort of make it a bit darker. Sorry, not darker, a bit lighter. It doesn't need to be quite so heavy as that really. But it's nice that it sort of joins the land with the wall. It looks a bit more organic, like it's actually caused by a bit of growth, etc. So the other thing I've considered doing to the overall structure as well is to add some bridges. So what I'm thinking of doing in these areas here where we've got the main, it's like our main doorway on each of the sections, and I did say that I'd like to add like a different colour for different sections. Now we're only seeing sort of, I think we're seeing an end of one section here, a whole one here, and then we see it repeated again there. So what I need to do is maybe just add a couple of more copies of the terrain, sorry, the structure and the accommodation side of things with different color panels here, so we sort of see that the difference to show that this is a different zone. And what else? Oh yeah, the bridge. I was going to put some fairly thin sort of structures, but they've got to bridge this entire terrain area. So, but I'm just thinking I'll arch them up slightly. They'll just be a nice white, modern-looking thing. Maybe I'll put some sort of structure in it so that it looks like they could actually support themselves. But I did consider as well putting some in the middle, or either, you know, a third and 2/3 across, having a little support that goes down, which equally could be a lift which takes people down to the actual terrain, because at the moment there's no sort of visible way that they get to it. And the other thing is, in some of these places here across little bits of this river, I'm going to put other little white bridges in, simple sort of fairly ornamental, straightforward kind of arc type things, fairly modern looking. I should, you know, maybe sort of scatter over the whole length of this, so maybe with 3 or 4. And I will also add maybe a couple of boats, you know, small boats, to the water flow, which will again add to the realism, as well as some 3D asset people. So hopefully that will all sort of bring it to life, and with that amount of detail going on, then you know, the eye should be fooled a little bit more. So let's move on. Okay, so back in our Cinema 4D scene file, we know that the clones are working and everything now. I think just for the sake of speed and not really needing to see them, I'm just going to make them invisible, just so they're not viewable in the actual viewport. I'm going to do the same with the other clones here, although I think the terrain and trees are completely turned off. Yes, it is, but we'll just hide those. In fact, because I'm not doing any render at the moment, I'm actually going to deactivate the cloners, because there always still seems to be a little bit of a strain on the scene when you've got a lot of cloned. They're still working, they're still generating these clones, even if we're not looking at them in viewport. Well, it seems to be that way anyway. I can leave that go. Now this is the thing I've got to address. This is the cloner which contains the lights. Now I can have that switched to not be render instances, because as I've said before, lights don't appear. They don't work when they're cloned as render instances. But because that's inside another cloner, which has got render instances, or it should have render instances turned on, in fact, then that will prevent these from working. Yeah, that one's got it on. I think I need it to be on there as well, really. Just make sure that still works with these. I think it should, yeah. Okay, I'll turn that off again. So at the moment nothing is appearing whatsoever with these lights, so I'm going to just, I think I'm going to go to turn that cloner off and go to our edit cam. Close this up as well. I need to clone that just once so that I can then make that editable, but at the moment I can't see it at all, so I'm going to drag this out of this whole hierarchy and just place it up here at the top, and I'm hoping it's going to reveal itself. I'm not entirely sure why that's not working. Oh, hang on, that was being mapped to a spline, wasn't it? So where is that? It's not seeing it anymore anyway. I wonder if I've deleted it. I think it's probably that, actually. It is. There we go. I don't know why that became disconnected, but there we go, found it now. Okay. So I'm just going to try this with the render instances on. I suspect it's not going to render, but we'll see. No, it's everything but the lights. In fact, it's just showing one light. That's the problem. So I need to have render instances off, and then that will render all of those. Let's just try that again. Yeah. But what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to improve the look of this tube. It's very very basic, so I'm not happy with that. I need to edit that and make it look a bit more interesting. So I'm going to turn the cloner off and go to the tube. Make sure I can see some lines on the mesh. We use quick shading lines, and I think I must have it on isopalms yet. I'll put that on wireframe now. And I don't want to do a huge amount, so I just want to make it a bit more interesting to look at, really. So in fact, I may even replace it. Oh no, there's no need really. I think I'm just going to make it look a bit more shaped rather than just this kind of like a default piece of grey plumbing tubing. But I want to give it more divisions than that, or rotation segments rather. Give it 72. In fact, probably 60 would be enough. And I'm going to make it editable, and then find my I'll put it in poly mode first. Find my mesh, create tools, loop path cut, and I'm going to turn that off from being bidirectional. Bidirectional is fine, I just don't want symmetrical. That's it. And what I'm going to do actually, that is a bit of a problem because of the nature of this form. What I'm going to do actually strip the middle out and get rid of it, and get rid of this one here. So I just treat it as a cylinder. I'm just going to get rid of this one for now as well. And that allows me to just tweak it a bit better. So I'm going to increase the scale of this section. Scale that down a bit. If I can move it down a bit. Looking at that, it's rounding it too much. So I want to just go to the Fong tag and reduce that to say 20, just to get harder edges back. And I'm going to grab this section here as well, shift click, and I want to extrude those. I'm going to do an inner extrude with an I. Sorry, hit I on the keyboard. Let's just undo that. Just wanted to do it a little bit. I'm going to extrude that inwards because I just want to make that a little more of an interesting structure. Catch the light better. And we've also created our insides of it, really. And I don't think I want it to be that pale grey, so I think what are we using this material for? That's the black on the. I'm going to use this matte black for it. It's a bit more interesting. Okay, so I'm going to put the cloner back on again. I'm going to move that down a little bit as well, so I think what I need to do with that is just move the case spline down a little bit. Since that's controlling their placement. It's better. In fact, they might look better with that kind of aluminium-y finish, which I think I started out with. In fact, what I'm going to do, I notice this on the aluminium anyway, where I've used it elsewhere. I want to alter the way this looks. I don't want it to be quite so reflective. I certainly want it to be rougher in its reflection anyway. I'll leave that up a little bit because I know it catches some specularity. So, okay, Beckman, GGX, that's better, a bit more diffuse. Probably bring that down a bit actually. it somewhere in the middle. Okay, luminance is affecting that, which is fine. Let's just check that that's being applied. Texture should be alright for that. Probably knock the scale down. Okay. So, just want to see how that's fitting. There's one at the end there, and there's a gap at the end there. So, I think there was enough in there. I think I'm just going to make that editable as it is. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is go into the lights, and of course lights don't have a seed, do they? It's done with the local. So what I need to do is select each of the lights, or all of the lights together, and turn off local. And that basically means that they will be, the noise pattern will be different in each. Essentially the same as like using seed or whatever to alter the placement, but because the volumetric noise in the lights exists in world space as opposed to local space with that switched on, they should all look a little different. So I'm just going to grab that cloner group and render active objects. Just need to tweak the settings now because it's in a different space. Okay, I'm going to put that to 0.1. Maybe this one to 0.5 just to extend it so it's longer. I don't think I want the contrast to be so much, so let's put that at 0. Let's just do a render on these again. With that, render active objects. That's better. And you can see that they're different in each one as well. So I'm quite happy to clone this group again, but what I'm going to do, because I can't clone them and have the render instances in the main cloner, I'm going to create another cloner just purely to clone these around the whole structure. So I don't think I need to tweak those any more than that. I'll just look at those again. I think that kind of gives the impression of what I'm after. I think we don't need that on there. I'm just going to look at the lights, the colour involved with them again. Just make sure they are a bluey white. It's hard to tell on this particular background. Oh, kind of a grey blue. I'm going to turn that up a bit, make it a little bit more blue. And maybe knock that down a little bit. And then boost that up a little bit more. Let's just have a look at that. The true test really is when it's actually against the background and the scene. My feeling is they are going to be too bright actually, just looking at that. I don't want them to be too dominant. Okay. Okay, I'm going to create a new cloner. I'm going to rename this to be Vapour Vent. I keep renaming these things to different things all the time. There we go. Vapour Vent cloner. I'm going to drag that into it, and I'm going to set this up the same as the main cloner, which obviously clones this entire structure. So the best way for me to do that would be to create a new attribute manager and then click on the main cloner and lock it. So that isn't going to change. It's going to stay on that cloner now in this attribute manager. Whilst in this one, I can go to the new cloner and set it up the same way. So this is correct. The object is the circle which it clones onto, and the offset is 75. The end is 28.5, and it's set to even, and it's 11. Smooth rotation is also on. Obviously don't want render instances or else it won't render the lights. And transform, what's that? Oh, 90. 90 and 90. And you can see straight away, it looks like it might be wrong, but it's not. That's the line following down into the whole cloned arc down below. So I just need to close this up. I can unlock that and turn on the main cloner and go to habitat cam, and there you go, all the lights are in there. So they are going to repeat obviously after or every 6, but the point is the pattern that won't really be noticeable because at least these 6 are a different pattern. So I'm just going to grab that cloner and render it as a whole. Let's try that. Yeah, that's fine. Obviously we're rendering way more than we need, but I don't think that'll be a problem. So right, we'll consider that done for now. I'm just going to drag that into the colony group. Let's have a look and see what we need to do next. Oh, I want to sort out the tree distribution on these. Probably have a few less blossoming trees. And I have to make a call on whether I'm going to take out the poplar trees that are in here. So I'm going to just nip back to my Photoshop render. So have a quick look at this. I don't know, I kind of like them in there. I think maybe I can make them bigger actually. I think they can definitely be taller. So I'm going to again come out of the main cloner, and I suppose I could turn that one off as well. Go to edit cam and turn on or make visible the terrain and trees. In fact, it's not that, it's just going to be, oh no, this is the wrong one. Yeah, I can just make that visible again, except for that I don't want it to be invisible in render. Oh, let's just redo that. There we go. That doesn't need that on. That can be like that, that can be like that. Turn that off there. Right. So I need to find the habitat tree cloner, that's it. There we go. Right, I'm just going to change their visibility to be actual tree models again. Just got to wait for the machine to catch up. Oh, what's going on there? Let's zoom to something in there. I'll do it. Right, I'm going to turn off lines. Should speed things up a little bit. Right, so I need to select the, I think it's a poplar model, and scale that up. Make sure it's not poking out through the colony glass. Could be a problem. And a fair few green trees in there. I'm just thinking about adding some more green trees to break up the blossom trees, but they just seem to be a bit clustered. So maybe I just need to look at the way that's distributed in the seed. Random is fine. I mean, if I put it on sort, then they're just gonna. Well, it's just gonna do that actually. Iterate. It's gonna go through them. That's too regular. No, it's going to be random, but we'll alter the seed. Let's see if that breaks things up a little more. Not really. Okay, I think what I will also do then, I quite like that one actually because it's got more of the poplars on the top promenade, I guess we call it, which is nice because they're up by the glass. I think the best way to get around it is to just put a few more of the other trees in. So I'm just going to have a look and see what that is. That's a little bush thing. I'm going to just drag copy another one of those. Oops, not what I want to do. So that repeats a little bit more often. It won't make any difference that I'm sticking them actually amongst this group randomly, but for some reason I seem to think that was logical at the time. It does alter their placement, as you see there. But seems okay. What else we got? What's this one? I think that's the kind of cactus thing. Palm. Not cactus, palm plant. I'm going to leave that as it is. I don't want to put any more of those in particularly. What's this one? Maybe I'll copy another one of those in. And what's this one? That's another bushy type thing as well, so it's quite small, but I'll put that in, break things up a bit. Just experiment with where it goes. Oh, that's the, yeah. That's fascinating watching what it does, where it places things. That's better. So now I've got far fewer poplar trees, so I may well just make another copy of that. And that's this one. No, it isn't. ML. Where is it? That one there. Yeah, it's better. So that way I've still got plenty of blossom trees, but there's not so many of them. Overall, there's still some green ones in between them, and a few more of those bushes mean that these areas aren't absolutely dominated by trees. So look at the other side. So that will be treated differently, of course. Yeah. I think that's a fairly nice even distribution of things. There's more poplars on that side actually, but yeah, I think that's fine. Looks a bit more ornamental than what we've got going on down the terrain. I don't think I want to make any of the others bigger in that. I think I'm just going to stick with those poplars being a bit larger. It's fine. Okay, so I can return that back to being just box detail for now. And in actual fact, I can turn it off. There's no real need for it to be on at the moment. Right, what is next on our list of things to do? Material. Yes, the material of this, which will be all of these. It will be the white as well as the orange, grey and black strips. I want to give that a little bit more character. Right, I'm going to save that, and I'm going to bring up the wonderful Magic Preview plugin, which tends to do it all a bit quicker, really. No, drag it to there, please. There we go. Right, I'm just going to knock that down a little bit. Right, I'm going to use a JPEG texture, something that I've used in the past, and I honestly can't remember where it came from. I think it probably came with some Star Wars model or something from the ForceNet or something going back years ago when I used to do that kind of thing. But I know that it'll work for this, and I don't see any real need to reinvent what it does. What I'm basically trying to do is, if you're familiar with Star Trek, and when you see the shots of the Starship Enterprise flying overhead or whatever, you see the highlight, you fit like the tiles or the panels, that you see the sort of highlight broken up as it passes over you. So they've got slightly different sort of reflectiveness, or maybe they're slightly oriented differently or whatever to give that effect. So there's a panel or the texture that I've used many times in the past called Cool Shine, which there's a few different ones in here actually, but this is definitely one that I've used on previous examples or previous sci-fi images. In fact, I think I used it on the last colony thing I did. And it's a very simple image. Really, it's just made up of a bunch of textured blocks and lines, so it gives the impression of being panelled and, you know, with different specularity. So I tend to use this either in the diffusion channel or in reflectance in the layer mask, which is where it'll break up the reflectivity on the highlights. So that's just, I'm going to put it in both of them. I'm going to put it in here. Where are we? Let's just load it in again. Go take that. No, and I'll leave that on MIP. You can see what it's doing there. It's breaking it up. And just so we can see what it's actually doing in terms of the pattern, I'm going to actually activate the diffusion channel. I'm going to lower the brightness of it, or darkness in fact, to 40. And I will also, in reflectance, make sure it's in the default specular, because I do have that running as well. It's not always usual to have both of these, but I'm not sure I don't know if that's helping or not really. I'll leave that off and see what it renders like without it. I sometimes, despite the fact that there seems to be a rule now that, you know, with the reflection and reflectance, you shouldn't really use specularity because it's obviously just a fake reflection anyway. But there are times where I still think it's kind of useful to have the both. And clearly Maxon did, or else they wouldn't have left both as layerable options. Maybe there's just a few of us that still like to do it the traditional way, even if it's wrong. Just waiting for this to catch up and preview. So in fact, I'm going to go back to my original sunlight, because I've got 3 different versions here, which was when I was trying out for the renders. I just kept the sun where it was because I liked it, and then made a duplicate. And on this first one, I seem to remember that it's going to catch the edge of this. Yeah. I don't know if that's completely evident what that's doing in terms of reflection at the moment, but I don't actually mind a bit of that diffusion, so it looks like there's a little bit of dirt or wear and tear on the structure. It makes it a little bit more convincing. Let's go outside, or go inside and have a look. Well, it certainly doesn't look any worse. We can't really see it that well because of the pattern inside the panes of glass, the hexagonal. So that's fine. I just want to view it from out here. I think when it's a better quality render, it'll be more noticeable, but I just want to get a rough idea, really. I think I'll just do it with this. Just render to the camera. It's not too bad. I think that's fine. It's very subtle, but I think it's worth having. What I'm inclined to do as well is to add the same to the black and orange and grey patterns, or materials, sorry. So I'm just going to lift this up a bit. And see how these are set up. Okay. So, well, in that case, I can just do that. Just bring it in. See if it's easy to find anywhere. Cool shine, there we go. Set that to 40. And in reflectance, layer mask. Same again. That should be fine as it is. And then the same for this, which is the black. And there's also the grey. Reflectance. No, layer mask. There we go. Just going to pull this down again. Just did a quick screen render. I think that's quite effective. In fact, you see it as well down here, where, assuming I'll get it to still reflect what's going on below it. Let's have a look. And I noticed it in this bottom portion where it's reflecting the colony glass. Yeah, that's better. It may look a bit noisy, in which case I should probably have to blur it a fraction. At the moment, a certain amount of the noise can be expected because it's a fairly low quality setting on the physical renderer. But if it proves to be a problem, then definitely turn it down or smooth it out a bit more. Yeah, that's getting the effect I want, I think. I don't feel the need necessarily to change the scale of the mapping on anything as such. The thing I would like to add actually also to these materials, thinking about it, is a little bit of bump. So like it's a little bit unevenness in the panels in terms of their form. Only very subtle, but I will do it on the white. And select noise. And I think what I want is box noise. What's the other one that's a little... No, definitely box noise. And I think I can leave that on texture. I'll make the strength high for now, just so we can see what it does. And scale a bit. Okay, so way too heavy, of course, and too small. So I'm going to switch that to maybe 400. Knock the bump down to 5. That's subtly undulating that a little bit and making it a little bit more like its panels are, you know, slightly warped, or as you see on any metal paneling, it's never perfectly flat or smooth, particularly on big structures. That's pretty good. See it on the arms. It's not overly noticeable, really. I think that's good. If it once we come to doing the actual main rendering, we'll just see how it works there. I'm not going to bother to add the bump into the colours as well. I think that's fine, just in the white. Right, that's another one off the list. What else was there to do? Right, so I think the next thing I'm going to do is sort out these verandas, or balconies, or whatever we're going to call them. And add that in. So I just need to turn off symmetry. Okay, on the wrong side. And have a look in the selection tags for this, because there should be one in there which I added at some point, which was for these top sections here, I believe. Thought I did anyway. Yes, there we go. Balcony extrusion. So what I'm going to do with these is extrude them downwards to turn these into basically a, you know, like a balcony space. I'm just trying to work out how to best do that to make it look correct. I'm just hitting D to extrude. I'm just going to have a look at it. Extrude it down. See the kind of maximum distance I want to go to. I want to do that and then come down again. See where it passes through. Okay, so that's perfectly fine there. The problem with it being done this way, with it sort of separating away from that wall, is it doesn't make it very clear how somebody would get onto this balcony, which again may be an unnecessary detail, although, you know, these things tend to make me go, well, how do you get there then? But can we get away with it? Because my intention was to then maybe select this bunch of polygons here and turn them black, the same as the window frame, so it sort of hides if there was a doorway or something in there. I think I can probably get away with it for the most part. If I'm sort of focused on one particular balcony, then I may have to then do more work on that area, put a doorway in and actually make it more tangible. Okay, well, since that's still the right selection tag, I'm going to put like just a wood decking or something on that, I guess. Let's just create a new material. I'll just make it a mid-grey for now, actually. And just drag it onto the object. Find that selection tag again. Just going to drag that over here. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to put a wooden floor material or something in that. Let's see what we've got here. I'll see if there's anything in the content browser we can use. Wood. Oh, up there. Wood. Pull that out. Planks, wood, is something like that I need really. Just see what the options are. I think I will go with something like that. Or that. Okay, let's drag this into there, close that up. And in fact, I'm just going to drag that into place with this other material. And have a look at how that's applied and made up as well. I'm going to guess and go with something like cubic for that. That should be okay. But I'll look at how it's made. Don't necessarily need everything on. I don't need reflectance. Bump I'm not really worried about either. It's a hugely complex material for what it is, really. Let's just do a quick render of this. I just want to see what the scale of it's like. I think actually I can just can't even find the object now. There we go. I think I can just scale that down. I'll just do increase the tile amount. I can see it's way too big for it anyway. So I will try. Okay, just get an idea of the scale there. 12, 14. That obviously can be set to less than that, but let's see if I put it more. It's unlikely that you're going to see much into that, apart from the odd shot where you're going to be above like that. But I think that'll probably be okay. Let's just do a quick render of the screen. Of course, it's always in shadow entirely, that one. Useful. I think I'm going to assume that's fine. It looks okay in here. Okay, so that's that particular task done as well. I need to turn on the symmetry object again. In fact, let's just do a quick render over here. But with that last sunlight on, what I used before, let's just try that. Yeah, it's fine. Although what's not fine is the darker area in here. So look at these polygons in the original version. So the other side. Okay, facing the right way. It's just the shading of it. Right. Now the other thing, actually, while I've got this structure here that I consider doing, I've said about putting the bridges in, so that's something I could address next. But also, I've thought about just pulling out some bits of this promenade as well, sort of breaking this line up, not making it so completely straight. Just putting some almost like, I don't know, patio or viewing areas that come out. I certainly thought about doing that in the central part just to be the start of the bridge anyway. But I'm thinking about putting some others in, just a couple of them spaced out. And I even considered, because I am sort of leaning more now towards this being like a holiday resort, as opposed to being just, mankind's place in, where to live in space. Let's be a bit decadent about it and treat it as a bit of a luxury location, particularly thinking about the likes of Virgin Galactic talking about taking people out into space for flights and such like soon. Why not have a resort that's in space and have Virgin Galactic take them out, or somebody else, or SpaceX or whatever was the current favourite. So I did think about putting like swimming pools or something in extrusions here, just hanging over the edge. So I might just extrude a few things and see what it looks like. So I'm going to save this as it is, and then go down this path, and if I decide I don't like it, I'll just go back. But first of all, I want to extrude this bit here. Well, not extrude, I want to drag it out, in fact. I need to take those as well. Because I think it's a little bit more interesting. Obviously I have to alter the fence to adapt to this as well, but I think it might be quite nice to have that as the starting point to where the bridge goes across to the other side. And it follows the form as well of these balconies, which is nice. It's just another little design motif. It's repeated, which is always good. And actually, let's just extrude that in again. Shift. That's right, I think I did that to 1 meter, didn't I? Let's do that to 0.2. Yeah, 0.1's a little too gentle for that, so 0.2. Okay, and if I put, say, a pool in these areas here, maybe I just take that area there, plus its edges as well. Not that one. Just going to control that a bit better. 1, 2, 3. Let's go to 4. And then I just do an extrude inner on those. Oops, not like that. I want that to be one whole group. Just want to equalize that so it's something too easy to remember. Extrude. And in fact, I'm just going to undo that because I'm going to extrude in. That'd be like a water surface, so just keep fairly high. And then, oh, in fact, let's just do this. I'm going to do a mesh command split. And just turn that one off for now. And then extrude this all the way to the bottom. And then on this one, turn it on again. Delete the other stuff underneath it, which we don't need. And get rid of all selection tags. And materials. So let's just do it from this end to there. Delete. Delete, 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 delete. So that will be our water surface, which is fine. I can just lower the height of that. In fact, if I select those polygons, oops, shift select, please. Just move that down to about there. And that'll be our water surface. I'm just going to quickly create another material. Color it sort of blue, bluey green. Normal blue actually. And brighten this up. And in fact, it doesn't want to have that color at all because it doesn't need color, it's water. I'll just do the blue in there. Okay, we'll add a bump in there straight away just to make it a bit more realistic. Noise, and we want something like Naki will do, I suppose. Scale something like 10%. 5. Let's give it a refraction of water. And that might be enough actually for now. Just going to drag that onto that rather. Turn that off. Just going to do a quick render of that, even though I know it's not going to look quite correct. Well, actually, it doesn't look too bad. Yeah, I quite like the look of that. I think that's a legitimate addition. think we can probably get away with one of those each side of the central structure. So this one will be there. Or maybe we put the other one there on the top deck. That might work. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. So, we did that one for basically 4 cubes, 4 spacing things. Oh, we can't do that here though. I'm going to do it to 3. So let's do it over this bit here, and I'll alter the placement of these plants so they don't overlap. So just going to, well, not extrude, I just want to move that, thank you. So lock it to 4. Oops. Now is that too much there? Might not be pleasant for the people in that apartment, but I'm concerned for their comfort. Oh, what the heck. They're in the cheap apartments anyway, they've got no balconies. So, let's select these. Inner extrude, apply. Oh no, let's not do that. Now let's do it. Extrude. In fact, don't extrude. We need to mesh command split and just turn that one off, and then extrude downwards. There we go. And then on this one, get rid of all these again, and everything else. We'll drag our warp material to it. This is where it starts to get fun, actually, when you start modifying things and tweaking the way everything looks. It's pretty cool. Right, let's turn that on again and just lower its placement a little bit. Just down a fraction. Okay. So obviously that's going to repeat as it goes around, but that's okay. We've only got 2 pools added, and one's on a higher deck, one's on a lower deck. I think that's quite a nice addition. So the other thing I've got to do then as well while I'm here is to sort out the fencing or the glass paneling that goes around them. I need to change this as well. So in the main habitat section, I want to take these out of the selection. I also need to go to the cloned the clone mesh that the trees are growing on to take them out of here. Yeah, that's that. So let's take those out. And I think I'll take them out there as well. Give a bit of space around the pool. Go back to set selection. We lose the green there. But what I do need to do is obviously take those same pieces off on the cloned mesh. So that's the cloner. There's the base. There we go. Just getting closer to that. Actually, can I select the right ones? Let's just turn this off so we can't see it. There we go. Why won't it let me select those? Okay. Delete those. Turn that back off again. And bring that back. So there's a clear area for the pool. What I'll probably do as well is put some loungers or something in this area. Again, we'll just push the whole holiday resort concept. Now, these glass fences are going to need to end here. So at the moment, they are simply extruded along a spline. So I may need to just either put some cuts in the spline. Find where they are. Just going to do another save actually. It's not a bad habit. Actually, the other thing I'm going to do before I go there is put a bevel. This may not work so well because it's a really small piece, but we'll see. I'll just try it on here first, see if it works. Right, bevel tool. Let's just see if there's any chance it was the same setup as last time, but I don't think it is. Okay, so I don't remember what that was set to. Just going to quickly go over to one of the others and see what we did. Okay, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 3 on there. It looks like it's a bigger arc, so oops, no, we don't want that. Well, that seems fairly reasonable at 0.025. We'll just go with that actually. Okay. I'll do the same on the others. Do this one at the same time. And back to the bevel tool, new transform. Should apply exactly the same settings to each of these, yeah. Good, that's nice. Okay, I'm going to see what that looks like when it's cloned. Just turn the main cloner on again. Symmetry. That's okay, and I'm going to go to my habitat cam. Yeah, I think that's okay. It's not, I mean, it's not too busy with these. We see them repeated throughout, but it's not going to be that big a deal. And I think probably position the camera depending on the 3D assets that I use of figures. I might place some sort of in the pool looking out and make that a feature. Cool. Right, I'm going to put the bridges in and I'm going to come back and worry about these fences afterwards. Let's go and do that view back to where it was. I quite like that viewpoint. That's it about there. Right, so bridges. So I'm going to go back to Edit Cam and turn off the main cloner. And I'm going to just, I think, just use an arc. Spline. Right, let's just turn off the symmetry as well. And have a look at this arc. So, start angle 0, end angle 90. Well, we want that to 180. I don't know exactly how much that needs to be at the moment. What are our options? Okay, now we just want a straight arc. So what I'm going to do with this is just make it editable. I just want to make sure that it's uniform points. And so make sure there's enough. Just going to put that, say 60. Make that editable. And then squash it down to be much shallower. Although the problem is we do get those kind of overly curved ends, which is not really what I want. I think the best way is to delete that and just go into a let's do it in another document, in fact. Be easier still. Let's just go to mode, view settings, filter. I want the grid back on. And I want to go to let's try front view and just get the spline arc tool. I'm going to use this with snap on as well. I'm holding down V to bring this up, snap, enable snap, and then we want work plane snap, grid point snap. There we go. That's okay. We'll just delete what I don't need. This is perfect, really. I think that is essentially enough of an arc for what I want. I don't want it to go up slightly. So I'm just going to press escape on that and then delete this point here. And then this should be absolutely fine. So it's going to move that to I'll just do the axis center on it. Put it in the center of the actual spline and then put that back in the middle of the document. Well, that's not the middle of the document. Weird. Let's just turn off the snap. Just smoothing that out and 0. And right, I want that to just go to the center of this, please. Access to all points. Point center. Oh, I should have had that activated, that's why. Okay, that's why I've been going wrong with that. Right, so that needs to go to the center of the scene. Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong there. Still got that activated. Don't! There we go. Right. So I'm going to model the bridge in this scene because I think it'd be a lot easier than doing it in a already complex scene. And I'm going to extrude some kind of profile. I could create one. I wonder if I can get away with using one of these. I might be get away with that one actually. Scale that down and bring in a sweep nib. I put the spline in there and the profile on top of it. Look at that instant bridge. Although that's not quite what I want. Well, it's going to be a lot bigger than that. U shape, it's probably better. Wow, subtle movements there. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what these different ones do without trying to make too much of a difference to it. Okay, that's the thickness. Fair enough. That would make sense. Maybe a bit more on both. Height-wise, I can adjust that once it's in the scene, I guess. I don't want to make this too fussy or too much going on. I just simply want it to be a walkway that goes over the terrain. I think that's going to be scaled down even further, but let's just go with that. Where are we? Oh, there we are. Okay. Oops, didn't mean to make it editable. We'll rotate that round to 90. Move it downwards. Okay. Right, I'm just going to scale this in place and set it up in this scene. Turn symmetry back on. Center that off. I'm going to scale this to fit at first. Lower it down. Surprising, it's not exactly center. It would be. Okay, so that wants to be lifted up. Right, I'm just going to go to a side view. What is it called in this one? Front, just to see where that's lining up with. Oh, that's why. Let's put that as central as we can. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is just expand the width of that a little bit. Is that the height? Yeah, that's the height. This is where I'm going to bring Colin into play again. Come on, Colin! Right, let's lift that up and put him on the bridge. See that he's touching the base of it. Take it to the side, I can see how high he is. It's probably a comfortable height, but I don't know that I want to. I suppose we need to think about safety. Right, change that to 10. Yeah, that's okay, I think. It's acceptable. I want to alter the thickness of this. That's the depth of that, so let's change this one to, oops, it's not what I meant. Okay, it's definitely going to have to have more thickness than that. Let's leave that at that. I need to find some nice way where this all joins up, I guess. So I'm going to stretch the spline a bit that way. I can see I should need to make this editable and just refine it in polygons. No, that should be the Z. There we go. Okay, just need to lift it all a little bit on the Y. Oh, that's scaling it. There we go. Okay, so that's a starting point for that anyway. Just going to save that.